All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating and, let's be honest, a challenging perspective on something we all use every single day: money. The whole idea we're exploring here is that we're actually living through the slow-motion collapse of old money as we know it.
Yeah, the source material does not pull any punches. It kicks right off with this statement, basically arguing that the failure of our money systems isn't some kind of bug or an accident. It's a feature. It's just a pattern that's baked into the system and repeats over and over again throughout history.
And that right there is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If this is a systemic problem, then what exactly is the system? What is the hidden flaw that keeps leading to this same predictable decay?
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we first have to unpack some of our most basic, core assumptions about what money even is. Let's start with what pretty much all of us are taught to believe.
I mean, really think about it. We tend to see money as just a simple tool. A neutral measuring stick, a lubricant for trade. It's just this harmless, dependable thing that helps us exchange goods and services. Well, the source argues that this very belief is exactly where the trouble starts. Because the thing is, when you actually look back through history, that whole idea of stability just falls apart. The pattern is remarkably consistent, whether you're talking about the Romans literally shaving silver off their coins to make more of them, or the kind of crushing debt levels we see across the globe today. It's a very long story of these systems always reaching their breaking point. So here's the crucial takeaway. What we might be seeing today isn't just a bit of bad policy or some temporary crisis that we'll get over. According to this analysis, it's the logical endpoint, the final unraveling of a monetary model that has simply run out of road.
So let's build on that. If the model itself is flawed, what is the actual flaw? How is it that these national currencies seem almost designed to fail?
This is where the source really flips the script. It redefines money not as some neutral economic tool, but as a political instrument. Its value isn't tied to gold or anything tangible, really. It's tied to a government's power to demand taxes from you, and its laws that basically force you to use it. That's a huge shift in how to think about it.
And you can see this predictable life cycle play out, almost like clockwork. It all starts out okay, trust is high, debt is under control, but inevitably, states face pressures, wars, economic crises, big political promises. And what's the easiest solution? It's always to just create more money, which means more debt. And over time, that chips away at the value of the currency and, most importantly, our trust in it.
And this right here is such a key insight from the text. We're all taught to think of inflation as this big problem to be solved, like it's an accident. The source frames it completely differently. It says inflation is the system's necessary release valve. It's the predictable outcome of using money creation to solve political problems.
So this all leads to a really interesting paradox, right? If the system is fundamentally built on this unstable cycle, why does it feel so normal on a day-to-day basis? This next part digs into that, the illusion of stability.
I mean, on any given day, everything seems totally fine, doesn't it? The markets are moving, the banks are open, you can still buy your coffee. The whole machine just seems to be working. It looks controlled and very orderly.
But what the source argues is that just beneath that calm surface, the whole structure is incredibly fragile. Get this, when a bank creates a loan, it creates the principal, but it never creates the money needed to pay the interest on that loan. This simple fact engineers a constant, system-wide scarcity of money, which forces this relentless competition for survival. And then, whenever a crisis hits, what's the solution? Always more debt, which just papers over the cracks and makes the whole foundation even weaker. Now, for the last, 70-plus years, this entire global game has had one major anchor, the US dollar. That arrangement, especially after the petrodollar system came into being, is what allowed the whole thing to keep expanding. But the source contends that now the geopolitical ground is shifting. As new alliances and trade blocs form, that anchor is really starting to lose its grip.
All right, so if the old system is creaking at the seams, what about all the new tech? Crypto, central bank digital currencies. Surely that's the answer, right? Well, this next section asks a tough question. Are they really an exit, or are they just a trap? The way the source breaks this down is really sharp. It basically frames CBDCs as a way for the current system to double down, just with way more centralized control and surveillance. On the flip side, it sees crypto not as something new and revolutionary, but as a deeply conservative attempt to just rescue the old idea of money as a scarce thing by recreating it with code.
And that's really the punchline here. According to the source, neither of these high-tech solutions actually fixes the core problem we talked about earlier.
They are both still trapped by that same relentless need for infinite growth that's baked into the architecture of old money itself. They're just different flavors of the same logic.
Okay, so if the old way is broken and the shiny new tech options are just traps, you might be wondering, where the heck do we go from here? And this is where the whole analysis pivots from taking things apart to actually building a new vision for the future.
And this is a super important distinction the text makes. The collapse it's talking about isn't the end of the world. It's not the end of trade or human collaboration. It's simply the end of trying to cram every form of human value into one single abstract tradable unit we call money.
So instead of imagining some single, new, global currency to rule them all, the text points to something, well, a lot more diverse. An entire ecosystem of alternatives, many of which are already out there. The common thread is they all move away from abstract value. Think about time banks, where an hour of my work is worth an hour of your work, period. Or local credit systems designed to strengthen a community, not to be hoarded by speculators.
And this right here is the fundamental shift. It's the whole ball game. It's about moving away from a system where value comes from hoarding abstract tokens and moving towards systems where value is recognized in our direct contributions and in the strength of our relationships with each other.
You know, it's easy to hear all this collapse talk and think it's all doom and gloom, but the argument here is actually pretty hopeful. It's not an apocalypse we should be afraid of, it's an evolution. The old model is simply failing because it doesn't fit our world anymore, and that necessity is forcing us to get creative and build something new.
And I think this quote just perfectly captures the spirit of that transition. The future probably won't be about some massive, sleek, high-tech global system. It's going to be messier, more local, and, well, a lot more focused on real human connection.
And that's the final thought the source leaves us with. A really powerful one, actually. It makes you ask the question, what if the breakdown of this abstract, numbers-on-a-screen system of wealth is exactly what allows us to rediscover a more meaningful, more human version of it? What if that's the real opportunity here? Definitely something to think about,